Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayit Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki. Continuing our reading in Srimad Bhagavatam. Today is also a very special day for those in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It's the day in which Srila Prabhupada had left India and boarded the Jaladuta and came on his journey to America. So after speaking some words on the Srimad Bhagavatam, I want to discuss about the significance of that, and I have a video to share with you about Srila Prabhupada's journey to America. Satyam Shatokim Kashipo Prayaser Bahos Swasidhi Aparam Hanaikim Syat Anjalokim Purudana Patra Digval Kaladao Satikim Dukalai Satyam Shataukim Kashipo Prayasher Bahos Swasidhe Hiupa Barhanekim Satyanjalokim Purudana Patya Digval Kaladao Satikim Dukulai Satyam Shitokim Kashipo Prayaser Baho Swadsidhi Hiupar Bar Hanaikim Satyanjalokim Purudana Patreya Digval Kaladao Satikim Dukulai. Please chant.
Satyam Kshitau Kim Kashipo Prayasir Badhau Swasiddhi Hyupabaranai Kim Satyanjalau Kim Purushadanna Patya Digvaladau Satikim Dukha Lahe.
Satyam Kshitau Kim Kashipo Prayaser Baho Swasiddhehi Upabarhanaikim Satyanjalau Kim Burudhanna Patrya Digval Kaladau Satikim Dukulai.
Satyam Shritau Kim Kashipo Prayashe Bahau Shwashiti Upabharhanai Kim Satyanjalau Kim Purudhanna Patre Digval Kaladan Shatikim Dukulehi.
Hare Krishna. Satyam Shitokim Kashipo Prayaser Bahao Swasiddhehi Upabarhanaikim Satyanjalokim Purudhanna Patraya Digvaka Volkaladao Satikim Tukulehi. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else like to chant? Okay, the synonyms. Satyam, being in possession. Shitao, earthly flats. Kim, where is the necessity? Kashipo, of beds and cots. Prayase, endeavoring for. Baho, the arms. Swasiddhi, being self-sufficient. He, certainly. Upabardhanai, bed and bedstead. Kim, what is the use? Sati, being present. Anjala, the palms of the hands. Kim, what is the use? Puruda, varieties of. Ana, eatables. Patraya, by the utensils. Dik, open space. Valkala adao, skins of trees. Sati, being existent. Kim, what is the use of? Dulakai, clothes. So we know this word now. If we want to say, what is the use of? We say Kim. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hands, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there are ample coverings or skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? Purport. The necessities of life for the protection and comfort of the body must not be unnecessarily increased. Human energy is spoiled in the vain search after the illusory happiness. If one is able to lie down on the floor, then why should one endeavor to get a good bedstead or soft cushion to lie on? If one can rest without any pillow and make use of the soft arms endowed by nature, there is no necessity of searching after a pillow. If we make a study of the general life of the animals, we can see that they have no intelligence for building big houses, furniture, and other household paraphernalia. And yet they maintain a healthy life by laying down on the open land. They do not know how to cook or prepare foodstuffs, yet they still live healthy lives more easily than the human beings. This does not mean that human civilization should revert to animal life, or that the human being should live naked in the jungles without any culture, education, and sense of morality. An intelligent human cannot live the life of an animal. Rather, man should try to utilize his intelligence in arts and science, poetry, and philosophy. In such a way, he can further the progressive march of human civilization. But here, the idea given by Srila Sukadeva Goswami is that the reserve energy of human life, which is far superior to that of the animals, should simply be utilized for self-realization advancement of human civilization must be towards the goal of establishing our lost relationship with God, which is not possible in any form of life other than the human. One must realize the nullity of the material phenomenon, considering it a passing phantasmagoria, and must endeavor to make a solution to the miseries of life. Self-complacence with a polished type of animal civilization geared to sense gratification is delusion, and such a civilization is not worthy of the name. In pursuit of such false activities, a human being is in the clutches of Maya, or illusion. Great sages and saints in the days of yore were not living in palatial buildings furnished with good furniture and so-called amenities of life. They used to live in huts and groves and sit on flat ground. And yet they have left immense treasures of high knowledge with all perfection. Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami were high-ranking ministers of the state, but they were able to leave behind them immense writings on transcendental knowledge, while residing only one night underneath one tree. They did not live even 2 nights under the same tree. What to speak of well-furnished rooms with modern amenities? And still, they were able to give us most important literatures of self-realization. So-called comforts of life are not actually helpful for progressive civilization. Rather, they are detrimental to such progressive life. In the system of Sanatana Dharma, of 4 divisions of social life and 4 orders of progressive realization, there are ample opportunities and sufficient directions for a happy termination of the progressive life. And the sincere followers are advised therein to accept a voluntary life of renunciation in order to achieve the desired goal of life. If one is not accustomed to abiding by the life of renunciation and self-abnegation from the beginning, one should try to get into the habit at a later stage of life, as recommended by Srila Sukadeva Goswami, and that will help one achieve the desired success. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What a wonderful purport. Om Agyanati Barandasya, Gyananjana Shalakaya, Chakshur Umliyatam Yena, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. The verse once again. When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hands, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there is ample coverings and skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? I remember there was this devotee one time, whenever there was somebody asked, are there any spoons? Because sometimes they would, store the spoons somewhere and you'd run out. Say, are there any spoons? He would hold up his hands and say, God has given us 5 spoons. This verse reminded me of that. So many wonderful points are being made here. And the fact that the human energy which is very rare, because it is only in the human form of life that one can inquire into the Supreme, that can understand what life is meant for, self-realization, understand that we are spirit souls, and that we have an eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is available in the human form of life. The other activities, which are categorized as eating, gathering food, and enjoying that food, in the various ways it manifests, whether it's selling it and the industries around it, that we now see, whether it's eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and you can really expand those categories quite a bit. These are general categories that are reserved for animal life, and we find them also in the human form of life, but it's only polished. We eat better. We eat at tables and chairs and with utensils, and we cook our food. We gather it, and more recently, over the last 100 and some years, we've processed it, we refrigerate it, we package it, we sell it in markets, etc. But it's so, when we say polished animal life, this is what it means. Sleeping, animals, they sleep on the ground. They may prepare a nest, like birds. They get some twigs and leaves and they make a nest, but they're using the earth, basically. Deer, they lie underneath a tree somewhere. They may carve out a space for them to live in, but they don't go to great endeavor. The idea of currency and money and business, that's not part of their lives. Mating, they mate, but they don't create an industry around the mating process. And then defending, we defend. There's no weapons and guns. In fact, they use what is naturally given to them to defend. There's no Department of Defense and etc. When it's time to defend out of necessity for self-preservation, they do so. So the point that's being made here, and I thought Srila Prabhupada made the point very, very clearly, is that we that and in animal life, they don't have these worries. They don't think about this, and he also said that he's not basically saying that we should return to an animal life, but at the same time, we cannot waste the human form of life, which is meant for self-realization, by simply trying to increase our protection and comfort of the body to a level that's unnecessary. Devotees by nature, as opposed to those that are, when you use the word karmis, or those that are live a life with the anticipation for increasing their sense gratification. We live lives that are much more austere. Our burden to the environment, our possessions are naturally less. If you would compare the life of a devotee versus a somebody who's not geared towards self-realization. At the same time, we cannot forget that the purpose of life can be ruined and spoiled if we fall under the clutches of the illusory energy and spoil this opportunity that we have by searching for illusory happiness, which is found in trying to increase our sense gratification in this world. The Varnashram system is designed for us to follow and gear us toward this this way of living, starting at the early ages of brahmacharya. When one is a brahmachari, when one's living, they're living a life of celibacy. They're a student that is studying, and they live a life of austerity. It's not about accumulation, and they're taught the purpose of life from the very early ages. When it's time to marry, it's already embedded in the consciousness that the purpose of life is for self-realization. And then, although I'm going to enter into relationship where now I will have to provide, house, and there'll have to be some type of income to provide food and do all the necessities of life, there's a sense of responsibility and duty. There's prescribed duties, and ultimately these prescribed duties should be done for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. And I should give in charity, and I should make available the life of those that are in the brahmachari and later forms of and later ashrams of sannyas. So they live a life out of duty and responsibility, but it's never thought that the purpose of life is now to accumulate as much as I can, get myself in debt, so that I'll have to work until I'm to my late years, in order to pay off these debts, and then just to acquire things that allow me to become more and more attached in this world. Of course, there are some attachments. There's familiar, family attachments, and then the attachments that come to, with those relationships that form, but from the very beginning, the education is there. And then one goes into the Vanaprastha ashram, where one begins to separate and slowly remove himself from the attachments of this world. Traveling, removing one from his possessions, and then ultimately sannyas, where one basically goes back to, goes into a place or position of renunciation of this world and undivided service to the Supreme Lord. And in this cycle of life, it makes the dependency on material objects less and less, and it gives the platform and the process for detachment from these things. One thing that we can look at, because we don't, so this type of lifestyle is not being taught in today's world. We're taught to try to better our financial position, better our educational positions, to make more money, and the purpose of making that more money is so that we can spend. There's a whole economy, local economy, a world economy, national economy that is dependent upon it. And the goal of working hard, the goal of putting forth so much of our energy is that we're able to increase our sense gratification. You want a new car, you want another car, you want a bigger house, and you got to fill that house with, so many seats and furniture and, different various items. All this costs money. So then what do we have to do? We have to work harder, in order to get that money. Then there's competition in order to get that. So our whole lives can be misdirected. And we have to be very careful that doesn't become the standard of living, especially for those that, like ourselves, that want to make reestablishing our relationship with Krishna, the main goal of life. You can only imagine the how much more peaceful life could be. And we can take a look at our lives and we can evaluate. If I went into my closet and I removed a third of my clothes, could I still be happy? Could I still live? Are these things necessary for me? We can imagine that if we lived in a place where we weren't so dependent on automobiles for transportation. We may still need them to get here and there, but it's not a dependency that every time I walk out the door and I go somewhere, I need to get into an automobile. How much different the world would be. If I could just walk to the market, if I could just walk to the temple, if there were temples established, places of worship established, and I would be able to walk there. Many of the schools, if you could simply just walk to the school. When they originally started to plan cities, villages were like this as well. This is how they were established. Industry was there. Then the industry built houses around the industry, and they'd also build schools, and they'd build places of worship, and everything was self-contained within those little neighborhoods. Yeah, there may be time where you go on a pilgrimage or you go on vacation or something like that. You go a little above and beyond, but things were self-contained and much more simpler. But with expansion, and that expansion was really the quest for increased sense gratification, life becomes more and more complicated. And as devotees, we have to protect ourselves again against this mentality so that we don't misuse this rare opportunity to reestablish our relationship with Krishna. And we can take this advice from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, and we can look at our lives and find what are some ways by which we can detach ourselves, minimize our accumulations, simplify, and live a more natural way of life. This was one of Srila Prabhupada's. It was the sixth purpose in the seven purposes of ISKCON, was to teach people how to live a more natural and simple way of life. Simple living and high thinking. Utilize that same energy that is used to work really hard and accumulate material possessions. Use that same energy to figure out the process of the process of self-realization, and then to be able to share that process of Krishna consciousness with the rest of the world. That is where the energy should be. That is where the resources should be. In the ideal situation. So it requires maybe some re-evaluation of our lives. But with it will come a simplicity, and that simplicity will bring about a peace of mind. The burden of having to worry about so many material possessions won't be there. We'll experience some freedom. And when we are able to utilize what we do have under this consciousness in Krishna service, we will actually be practicing renunciation. So these are some things to think about. I wanted to well, first let's pause there and see if there's any questions or comments about this. And then afterwards, I want to talk a little bit about Srila Prabhupada's journey when the Jaladuta, which is the anniversary of him boarding the Jaladuta today.
Hare Krishna devotees, if anybody has questions related to this verse, we can do that at this time and then move forward.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam Sadguru Srila Prabhupada. I have just one realization from this purport of Srila Prabhupada's, that the way he explained about this Sukadeva Goswamis and Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswamis were ranking as ministers and earned knowledge and everything. That was really amazing how they gave up everything. So that's a very good point in this. And then I am more and more, I think, they are preparing us for that first Sati Yuga, that we have to use and our natural ways, not that material things. The way you are saying that the spoons and forks, God has given, if you gather all the fingers, that is a spoon, your palm. It's like the spoon. And if you separate them, that is a fork. So I realized that. So the simple thing they used to use, but we are using forks and spoons for sanity or whatever it is. I don't know why they changed. So all these things, and they were on the huts and they were living there and they accumulated knowledge and they were working like ministers like that. But still they gave up all that. And it's in this running material life now, Kali Yuga. It's not be able to cope up with the time. And time, knowledge, and running to the schools, and from the childhood, the school, we hold the hand of the child and grab her to the school and then make her to, no, you have to be first ranked. No, it's a competitive thing. This Kali Yuga. It was not, I don't know, it was there before or not, but people were knowledgeable, people were doing everything. So what is this we're getting in the Kali? So this purport is a very, very valuable purport for all of us. For me, actually. And then if we cannot do younger age, the spiritual thing, at least older age, we should go for that. I felt so much now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Nice realization.
That's my realization.
Sunil?
Hare Krishna.
Hare
This
Krishna.
is a very good session, my first session.
Well-
Brother Sashi guided me to come to this session. I have one very silly question. Maybe I do not know the format. I was trying to look for that verse in this book, and I'm not been able to locate. Will you be able to tell me the page number of that verse which you just read today from this book, or it is not from this book?
It's a different book. So you have the Bhagavad Gita, which so we're studying the Srimad Bhagavatam right now.
Okay.
So it's a different book. I'm sorry for not explaining in the beginning about that. So we can get you access to that book if you leave your number in the chat. Maybe Mother Shobha Radhe, you can connect with him and
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Make arrangements. So even if it's online, you can follow along, because the books are available online. But we can also, if you're interested in purchasing the books, we have some at our temple that we can make arrangements for you to get.
Okay, I'll leave the number and I'll see that book on the temple on this Sunday. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you. Sorry for my interruption.
Welcome. We're happy to have you with us. So I wanted to talk a little bit about today and the importance of today. In 1965, Srila Prabhupada, he boarded on August, it was August 13th, 1965. Srila Prabhupada set sail on the Jaladuta ship. It was a cargo ship coming to America. And there were some significant events that took place in Srila Prabhupada's life prior to this happening. I just want to recap some of those events that set the scene of his journey to America. In 1922, under the request of his friend, Narendra, Srila Prabhupada, Abhay Charan Day at the time, he met for the first time his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And upon their first meeting, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta told Srila Prabhupada, he said he wants him to preach Lord Chaitanya's message in the Western countries. That was in 1922. And Srila Prabhupada said, upon that meeting, I accepted him as my spiritual master within my heart. And that became his life's mission. Everything about his life at that point became about, how do I execute this? In 1925, for the first time, he visited the Holy Land of Vrindavan Dham, and he went there to hear from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur marked him because he liked to hear. When there's opportunities to go on various pilgrimages and do parikramas, Srila Prabhupada would stay back and listen to the lectures of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and that was noted by his spiritual master. The process of hearing from the spiritual master is most important, especially when you go to a holy place. The most important thing is not so much you're taking a bath, although these things are very auspicious, but it's really the transfer of transcendental knowledge. In 1933, Srila Prabhupada accepted formal Diksha initiation from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. In 1935, he received instructions at Radhakund from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and that was their last meeting at Radhakund. And once again, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur instructed him to write and publish books in English for the purpose of going west and preaching Lord Chaitanya's message. In 1944, Srila Prabhupada published the Back to Godhead magazine. That was the first edition of Back to Godhead. In 1951, Srila Prabhupada accepted Vanaprast, which was retirement from family life. He was a pharmacist, a chemist, and that was his profession. But in 1951, he retired from family life and began to focus exclusively on the process of Krishna consciousness and spreading it. In 1953, he initiated his first disciple, Acharya Prabhakar. In 1956, he moved to Vrindavan, where he resided as his residence until he left for America. He began translating Srimad Bhagavatam in 1959. Now, also in 1959, he moved into the Radha Damodar temple. So those that have been to the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, and they see Prabhupada's quarters, although he started on the top level and then he moved down to the room that is now there. That started in 1959. And he was also in 1959 awarded the he was awarded the ashram of sannyas. So he became a sannyasi officially in 1959. In 1962, the first canto, part 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam was published. 1964, the second volume of the first canto was published. And then he finished the first canto in 1965. All along, he was trying to find a way to come over to America, to fulfill the order of his spiritual master, which was given to him in 1922. And then on this historic day, August 13th, he boarded the Jaladuta. We're going to watch a little video about this. And when he boarded it, when you talk about material possessions that we were just having the class on, he walked up the plank up onto the ship. He carried a suitcase, and in that suitcase there were a little bit of clothing, some dried cereal. He had a few dollars, was equivalent to, I think, $8, and an umbrella. Later on the journey, he stopped to pick up 200 copies of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which he brought over to America. That was his possessions. So we hear about Srila Rupa Goswami, living under the tree. I mean, this is the modern day, version of this level of austerity. You can only imagine the courage, a 70-year-old man with barely no connections in America, just one sponsor, but that was all the way over. But he never met them before. He was going over to a foreign land. The trust that he had in Krishna. We should meditate upon that. The faith that he had in the holy names and his spiritual master. So let us watch this. I'm going to share the screen. And initially, please let me know if you can hear the audio and the video. Make sure that it is working.
Good.
Can everybody hear?
And here, Prabhu.
This diary of the voyage of the Jaladuta is a personal account of the challenging journey that launched Srila Prabhupada's life mission. It reveals the full measure of Srila Prabhupada's devotion, faith, and self-sacrifice, which qualify him as one of the world's few genuine spiritual leaders. We hope this presentation will inspire others to appreciate Srila Prabhupada's triumph over adversity and to follow in his lotus footsteps. Srila Prabhupada was instructed by his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to preach Krishna consciousness to the English-speaking peoples of the world. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami published the first Back to Godhead magazine in 1944. He also began to write translations and commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and other Vedic literatures. Srila Prabhupada struggled for many years in India, trying to fulfill the instructions of his spiritual master, but he found little encouragement. Finally, in 1965, after publishing 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam, he approached the owner of the Scindia Steamship Navigation Company, Sumati Moraji, for a complimentary passage to the United States of America. After considering his request for some time, she finally agreed and issued him the ticket. In the port of Calcutta, on August the 13th, 1965, carrying only a few possessions, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami climbed up the steep gangway onto the cargo ship named the Jaladuta, the name which aptly means the messenger of the water. The ensuing journey presented considerable hardship, as we will glimpse from some of the entries Srila Prabhupada made in his diary. The Jaladuta, under the command of Captain Arun Pandya, left at 9 a.m. on Friday, August the 13th. In his diary, Srila Prabhupada wrote, "The cabin is quite comfortable, Thanks to Lord Sri Krishna for enlightening Sumati Moraji for all these arrangements. I am quite comfortable. August the 14th, he wrote, the ship started majestically at about 11 o'clock in the morning, but on reaching the Bay of Bengal, there is tilting of the ship and a little rolling also. The roughness increased gradually on the upper Bay of Bengal.
Sorry, Prabhu, to interrupt, but there's no video. It's just a black screen.
Oh, yeah.
16th August. The siren sounded on account of hazy vision to warn other ships coming from the opposite direction. At about 12 noon, it is raining heavily, and the ship stops moving occasionally, sounding the siren. There is a constant sound of thunderbolts. This is the first time I am experiencing heavy rains in the midst of the deep ocean.
Did somebody say they can't see the video?
Yeah, there's no video. The sound is good, but there's no video.
There's no video. Wow. Okay. At all from the beginning?
Yeah, from beginning.
Oh, wow. I wish somebody would have said something.
I thought you said only audio. I'm sorry.
If you-
No, but the sound is very clear. Very
Audio
nice.
is very clear.
Yeah. Let's see how we do this. I don't know why. Let me just try this real quick. I apologize. I'm going to.
Yeah, now it's there.
Now you can see.
Yeah, now we can see. In the beginning we saw and then it got cut. I thought only audio.
Okay.
Sorry. I should have said before.
Okay. Can you hear the sound now?
No,
From 12 noon, passing through cyclonic weather.
Yeah.
The ship is tilting too much.
You can't hear the sound.
can hear both.
You can hear
see
both.
both.
Okay, good.
There was vomiting tendency and dizziness, and I felt uncomfortable with seasickness the whole day and night. At 3 p.m., the ship turned towards the Sri Lankan coast. On the 19th, when the ship arrived at Colombo, Sri Lanka, Prabhupada was able to get some relief in his seasickness. The captain took him ashore and he traveled around Colombo by car. Then the ship went on towards Cochin on the west coast of India. Janmastami, the appearance of Lord Krishna, fell on the 20th of August that year. Prabhupada took the opportunity to speak to the crew about the philosophy of Lord Krishna, and he distributed prasadam he had cooked himself. August 21st was his 70th birthday, observed without ceremony at sea. The same day, the ship arrived at Cochin, and Srila Prabhupada's trunks of Srimad Bhagavatam volumes, which had been shipped from Bombay, were loaded on board. By the 23rd, the ship had put out to the Red Sea, where Srila Prabhupada encountered great difficulty. He wrote in his diary, rain, seasickness, dizziness, headache, no appetite, vomiting. The symptoms persisted, but it was more than seasickness. The pains in his chest made him think he would die at any moment. In 2 days, he suffered 2 heart attacks. He tolerated the difficulty, meditating on the purpose of his mission. But after 2 days of such violent attacks, he thought that if another were to come, he would certainly not survive. In his uneasy sleep that night, he had a dream, a vision. Lord Krishna appeared. The Lord was in an open boat, along with his other incarnations. Krishna was rowing the boat, and the boat was pulling Srila Prabhupada's ship with a rope. Krishna was smiling at Srila Prabhupada and was pulling the ship all the way to America. Prabhupada felt assured of Lord Krishna's protection, and the violent attacks did not reoccur. Srila Prabhupada did not write about this occurrence in his diary, but simply drew a line through those troubled days, declaring that he had passed over a great crisis in the struggle between life and death. Years later, he related these events to his followers. The Jaladuta entered the Suez Canal on September the 1st and stopped in Port Said on the 2nd. Srila Prabhupada visited the city with a captain and said that he liked it. By the 6th, he had recovered a little from his illness and was eating regularly again for the first time in 2 weeks, having cooked his own khichdi and puris. He wrote in his diary that his strength renewed little by little. Thursday, September the 9th. 4 p.m. this afternoon, we have crossed over the Atlantic Ocean for 24 hours. The whole day was clear and almost smooth. I am taking food regularly and have some strength to struggle. There is a slight tacking of the ship, and I'm feeling a slight headache also, but I'm struggling, and the nectarine of life is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the source of all my vitality. Friday, September the 10th. Today, the ship is plying very smoothly. I feel today better, but I am feeling separation from Sri Vrindavan and my lords Sri Govinda, Gopinath, and Radha Damodar. The only solace is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which I am tasting the nectarine of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. I have left Bharat Bhumi just to execute the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in pursuance of Lord Chaitanya's order. I have no qualification, but have taken up the risk just to carry out the order of his divine grace. I fully depend on their mercy, so far away from Vrindavan. During the voyage, Srila Prabhupada sometimes stood on deck at the ship's rail, watching the ocean and the sky, thinking of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vrindavan Dham, and the order of his spiritual master to go and preach in the West. Mrs. Pandya, the captain's wife, whom Srila Prabhupada considered to be an intelligent and learned lady, foretold Srila Prabhupada's future. If he were to pass beyond this crisis in his health, she said, it would indicate the goodwill of Lord Krishna, and he would be successful in his mission. The ocean voyage of 1965 was a calm one for the Jaladuta. The captain said he had never in his entire career seen such a calm Atlantic crossing. Prabhupada replied that the calmness was Lord Krishna's mercy, and Mrs. Pandya asked Srila Prabhupada to come back with him so they might have another such crossing. Srila Prabhupada wrote in his diary, if the Atlantic would have shown its usual face, perhaps I would have died, but Lord Krishna has taken charge of the ship. On September 13th, Prabhupada wrote in his diary, 32nd day of journey, cooked bati khichdi. It appeared to be delicious, so I was able to take some food. Today I have disclosed my mind to my companion, Lord Sri Krishna. There is a Bengali poem made by me in this connection. The following is an English translation. I emphatically say to you, O brothers, you will obtain your good fortune from the Supreme Lord Krishna only when Srimati Radharani becomes pleased with you. Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is very dear to Lord Gauranga, the son of Mother Sachi, is unparalleled in his service to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. He is that great saintly spiritual master who bestows intense devotion to Krishna at different places throughout the world. By his strong desire, the holy name of Lord Gauranga will spread throughout all the countries of the Western world. In all the cities, towns, and villages on the earth, from all the oceans, seas, rivers, and streams, everyone will chant the holy name of Krishna. As the vast mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu conquers all directions, a flood of transcendental ecstasy will certainly cover the land. When all the sinful, miserable living entities become happy, the Vaishnava's desire is then fulfilled. Although my Guru Maharaj ordered me to accomplish this mission, I am not worthy or fit to do it. I am very fallen and insignificant. Therefore, O Lord, now I am begging for your mercy so that I may become worthy, for you are the wisest and most experienced of all. If you bestow your power by serving the spiritual master, one attains the absolute truth. One's life becomes successful. If that service is obtained, then one becomes happy and gets your association due to good fortune. O Lord Krishna, you are my eternal companion. Forgetting you, I have suffered the kicks of Maya birth after birth. If today the chance to meet you occurs again, then I surely will be able to rejoin you. O dear friend, in your company, I will experience great joy once again. In the early morning, I will wander about the cowherd pastures and fields, running and frolicking in many forests of Braj. I will roll on the ground in spiritual ecstasy. Oh, when will that day be mine? Today, that remembrance of you came to me in a very nice way. Because I have a great longing, I called to you. I am your eternal servant, and therefore I desire your association so much. O Lord Krishna, except for you, there is no other means of success. In this way, Srila Prabhupada described his helpless dependence on his companion, Lord Krishna. After a 35-day journey from Calcutta, the Jaladuta reached Boston's Commonwealth Pier at 5:30 a.m. on September the 17th, 1965. The ship was to stop briefly in Boston before.
Okay, I'm gonna stop here because that brings us to the end of the journey, and there's another celebration when or we can observe the day when Srila Prabhupada arrives in Boston and arrives in America. And we'll speak about that. That's also on our calendar. We can imagine 36-day journey, right? Seasickness, turbulent waters, 2 heart attacks, 70 years old. And why did Srila Prabhupada do this? He did it for us. He did it for you and me and the rest of the world. And he didn't even know us. He did all this for people he didn't even know. So today, let's, understanding the immense sacrifice that Srila Prabhupada made. Let us reflect on what we can do, for Srila Prabhupada, for his mission, that he was willing to sacrifice his life for. It's a very special day. Let us give our thanks and gratitude to Srila Prabhupada. And this also it explains why Srila Prabhupada is known as Jagat Guru. He's the founder Acharya. He's just not a ordinary, regular teacher of spiritual knowledge. All guru, we say guru is one, but there are certain gurus that they take on the title of Acharya, one who teaches by example. And one is founder Acharya, one that actually establishes the redirection of a spiritual movement. And Srila Prabhupada holds that prominent title. And therefore we worship him, every day in the temple. Again, please, let us reflect and give thanks to Srila Prabhupada, our gratitude. And if you want to learn more about Srila Prabhupada, tonight we have a reading on the Zoom channel every Thursday, starting at 7 o'clock. You can join that. Okay, I'll end here. I know it's 9 o'clock. Thank you all. If there's anything anybody wants to say about Srila Prabhupada, I'll stay on. I would love to hear. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
There's a lot to learn from his life history. A lot to learn from Srila Prabhupada. What the age, what other things. And how much he sacrificed. There are a lot of things.
And this is just the beginning. After this, once he arrives, there's 11 years of struggle and of spreading the Hare Krishna movement from the grassroots, from a few dollars to a worldwide mission. And how that happens, we can see that only Krishna is able to make something like this happen. And the power of a pure devotee, able to attract Krishna's trust in doing something like this. But just to get to that point, what he had to go through.
With all these facilities, if we get sick, we feel so much. That without anything in that unknown ship and then unknown country he came, that's really something at that age. You learn a lot.
Yeah, at that age, I mean, even think at any age, would any of us have taken that on? Even in our best of health at 25 years old, 30 years old, would we have done something like that? This is 1965. It wasn't too, there's no cell phones, no, medicine wasn't, he didn't have the proper medicine. He didn't take anything with him. Not to speak of 70 years old. Truly remarkable. I petition the devotees again to please please pray to Srila Prabhupada a prayer of gratitude today.
Thank you.
And ask Srila Prabhupada to please engage us in service to him to fulfill and execute his mission. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice meeting you.
Vanchakalpatarubhishya, Kripasindhuvyeva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.